So on this episode, I'll be talking to Jo Davies, Managing Director of HR Alchemy. She's gone from strength to strength with clients such as Dragon's Den Zara Davies, Altec Engineering and Tomahawk Steakhouse. Jo, thank you for being on the podcast.
No problem at all.
Can you tell us a little bit more about HR Alchemy?
Yeah, so I started the business properly in 2017. We've got 5 staff now. We've just moved to our new office in Yarm and we've got over 150 clients. So we've just steadily built the business up over that time, really. So yeah, all's good.
Amazing.
Managed to survive COVID and working from home for 2 years, but we're back together again now.
Tell us about working in Yarm.
Well, we've only been there a couple of weeks and my dog's now well known on the high street, so she's got a lot more friends than we have so far. But hopefully soon when we get our branded up, our new signage and everything, people will know we're there. But at the minute we're just waiting on furniture, working on our sign, and then, yeah, hopefully it'll be take off from there. I'm looking forward to it.
Only problem is, JB was the known dog before.
Yeah, well, our next door neighbours obviously have got another Frenchie, so I'm hoping it will become a lifelong friendship.
I don't know how that relationship's going to work with JB because he's a bit of a bitch. Pete won't mind me saying it.
Well, I'm glad you've said that, but he's our client, so I can't ever say that. But hopefully, we'll see.
He's a bit of a diva.
He's been used to being the only dog at the office, so yeah, hopefully Stella will probably, work her way into his love and affection.
So will you tell us about your education, so before the whole business, and tell us about education, school, what was it like, what did you study?
So I went to Nunthorpe Comprehensive, and yeah, did you?
I did.
Oh, there you go, it's another thing we've got in common. So I went there, went to sixth form college after that. Didn't have a clue what I wanted to do, absolutely no idea. And did a business studies degree in Salford. So I moved out and went to Manchester. Loved Manchester, loved the scene. Probably would have stayed there, but during that time I did a work experience placement at British Steel, as it was, and they sponsored me in my last year and then offered me a job to go back to. So I came home and the day after I finished, I went straight into work and didn't look back until 2015 when the company I was working for, which was SSI, went into liquidation and lost my job as a result of that. So that really spurred me on to get my job, to set up my own business rather.
So how did you make the leap from SSI to on your business?
Not very well. I'll be honest with you. I've never been out of work since I was left uni. So, and I'd always worked in steel. So it was a bit of a grieving process after I'd left, because obviously you've, been there through, ever since I'd grown up really. And I took a couple of long-term contracts on, one at Northumbrian Water and then a second one which was in the NHS. And I think you're allowed one mistake on your CV and the NHS was mine. Yeah, hated every minute of that.
Did you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Was there a reason for it?
Yeah, because everything's proceduralised and HR people can't think for themselves. So the first day I arrived, I got a 62-page absence policy presented to me. I'd been used to designing out policies and working out policies in SSI, and they were a couple of pages, and then I'd gone to this kind of hugely complex. It's just way too bureaucratic for me.
Structured.
Yeah, I'm way too creative to.
You are
to be stuck in a place that doesn't allow any sort of creativity.
And like HR Alchemy's branding, we'll talk about that later, but your branding is totally different as well to a normal HR.
Yeah, and that's quite deliberate. I wanted to be a disruptor in the market.
Yeah. Stand out.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I remember first seeing you with your green and black.
My green and black, yeah.
At a networking event. I think it was like 2019, and thinking.
We had test tubes of Prosecco on offer.
That's right.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Obviously I had one.
Obs. Yeah.
Obs. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when you did make the move to start your own business, how did you go about that? How did you get the name? How did you figure out that?
So initially I'd called myself Steel River HR, which I know there's another consultancy called Steel River, and I'd originally called that because I wanted some kind of knock onto the heritage. And then I went to a business development group, and they basically thought that all I did was HR for steel companies. And I thought, well, that's not going to work. And then I wanted something a bit different. I researched it and actually decided that HR Alchemy was all about creating kind of solutions to people problems. So I got the name, and then we started working with a local marketing agency, and I was quite firm from the beginning. I wanted something deliberately very different, because I thought the only way I was going to be able to distinguish the business from other HR companies was actually on having a noticeable brand and standout brand. So yeah, that's what we did. And I know you're going to come on to it later, but we're going through a bit of a refresh with that, because we were getting to an age where actually things needed to be updated and have a personality that needed to...
Might as well talk about it now.
Okay.
Tell us about it now.
So basically
we had the green and black.
Yeah, I had the green and black, and then we went through a brand audit during COVID, and whilst we had some great branding, there wasn't a lot behind it. So actually, when you started to unpick it, actually the tone of voice we were using, the brand message, everything just needed a refresh. And so we worked with another company, and we've gone through a full cycle in terms of not only developing that, but actually developing the new brand and colourways and everything. So yeah, it's really exciting.
What does it look like? Can you tell us?
Yeah. I mean, it's a lot more fun.
Yes.
Than the previous. The previous quite stark, quite kind of. I got a lot of comments that it looked like kind of Tron, or like kind of some space age kind of Tron the movie. So we've softened it a bit, but it's still fresh and it's still really relevant, which is what we wanted. I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there, so I needed some experts around to kind of guide me in the right direction and to look at what others were doing, both nationwide and over in America in terms of HR branding. So we've done quite a huge mapping of other companies to see, where we can maximise the best logo.
Have you changed your tone of voice or anything?
Totally, yeah. It's going to be a lot more fun and a lot less masculine, a lot more. Our slogan, one of our slogans, for example, is HR is our cup of tea and people are our biscuits. Join us for a beer brew, want to know more, kind of thing. So it's much more chatty and friendly.
It's very you.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah.
Can you say who's helped you with it?
Yeah, Max Freer from One of a Kind.
Oh,
I've known Max from my SSI days.
Yeah.
We used to do some work together when she had her own agency in Middlesbrough. So yeah, I've known her for many, many years, and we've always kept in touch.
Shout out to...
Yeah, so shout out to Max.
Yeah, nice one. Good work.
We're
Love
also working on a project together called Cultural HR, which, moving on from kind of just a compliance-led HR, we're going to start doing a number of workshops for businesses to come in and look at not just the fact that they've got all the great HR bits and pieces in place, but actually looking at how they can be more of an employer of choice, really. So not just looking at maybe having some wellbeing policies, but looking far, deep diving really into the cultural aspects of their business, how they interact with their staff, what engagement they have with them, what offerings they have, and really doing a number of very different. I don't know whether there's anybody else in the Tees Valley that's doing this, and really looking at not only just the compliance, but actually the softer side of HR and getting to grips with that, because a lot of people these days are really struggling to recruit and retain in the current climate, which has been hugely accelerated by by COVID, but it was happening before that anyway. The younger generation, the millennials, as many like to call them, they have a very different kind of way, and a very different outlook that employers are going to need to get on the front foot with. Otherwise, they're really going to get stuck behind, and a lot of their HR dealings will be very old hat.
What do you think is important in a company culture nowadays?
Well, I think it's to be all-inclusive, and at the moment we're seeing, quite the rise in, if I just use my son as an example, he's 13, we've asked, you know, as a parent and as schooling, we ask their opinion a lot more about things, and I think it's part of the GCSE curriculum. And kids are used to having a voice now, and if they go to an employer that doesn't allow them to have some sort of say in the world of work, then they become frustrated. I'm talking about my son. You know, he gets a homework schedule, like, so this is the amount of homework they're allowed to get each night, to stop teachers kind of piling on top of each other. And then they had one teacher who was piling on top of each other, and a group of them got together and went and had a chat with her. And I was like, oh my God, in my day, I would never have dreamt of doing that. But this is the kind of the culture that and the environment that these you know, the younger generations, I would say as an old person, would that wants from a place of work. They want to have the say. They don't want to be put in a box and left alone. You know, and we're seeing a big movement towards the social ethos. You know, a lot of companies want to have a social ethos for work. You know, they want to know that they're supporting potentially maybe the anti-discriminatory practices, climate change. All of that is really important to a generation, and I think employers can get lost, you know, thinking about, you know, just the very basics of maybe an investor's in people, and all of a sudden that's their people bit done. Actually, there's a lot more to managing people and being an employer of choice than just having a few gongs or having a pool table in the middle of the office. You think you Google. Actually, it's not. It's far, far greater than that.
Yeah. What companies do it well? Who you know?
So a lot of the big brands, obviously, because they've got the time and investment to put into that, but there's lots we can learn from them. There's lots and lots of case studies, particularly the big American brands, which is why we're seeing a huge, and it will come here eventually, we're seeing a huge surge towards that now over here. So a lot of the big American brands are far more invested in seeing their staff as consumers rather than just employees. So, you know, you think about sites such as Glassdoor, which is basically, think, TripAdvisor for places to work. I don't think it's started to affect in the UK so much, but in America it's huge. You know, employees will go on and actually, you know, they'll berate an employer if they've had a bad experience. But likewise, a lot of the big US firms are using that as part of their, you know, their monthly report. You know, this is the data we've picked up from Glassdoor this month. You know, good and bad, and actually learning from that. And I think a lot of it is actually treating your employees as adults as well. You know, you get a lot of respect by treating people as an adult rather than having this parent-child relationship, which, especially from an HR perspective, we do tend to treat our employees as children. Yeah. I mean, I've been known as the HR mum for some of my clients, and whilst that's lovely, I do need to think about that relationship that my clients do have with their staff, and the employers that treat them as adults tend to have a much better working relationship and a greater sense of trust.
What about a small company? So say like a small company, how would you, like, before they employ, how would you say tackle, you know, the cultural side of things?
Well, the culture starts at the top.
Yeah.
You know, it starts with the owner manager of the business. Yeah. You know, and if you're quite an authoritarian at home or, you know, in your kind of personal life, then you're likely to be an authoritarian kind of employer. So I guess if you are that type of person, it's having a team of people perhaps beneath you that can complement you and actually work with you in terms of how you're going to manage your teams. And I'm not saying that, you know, there's pluses and minuses in all of that, but, you know, if I knew I was particularly weak in certain areas, and I mean, I'm not great at accounts and finance, I know that, but I employ somebody who is to make up for that. So, but I think you've got to be very self-aware to also do that. Because if you're not and you actually think you're the greatest thing, then people aren't going to stay with you. They're going to get fed up and leave.
I literally say all the time, I hire people who are smarter than me.
Yeah?
Yeah, defo.
I always used to have a role in the steel industry as HR director that actually I recruit people to make myself redundant
Yeah.
Well, that was
That's right, yeah.
ironically, that everybody got made redundant, but that's bad. I used to say I'm recruiting the talent that actually will take over from me eventually, because that's how I saw it.
Yeah, well, it's a nice way to say
It
to
is,
be
yeah,
fair.
absolutely.
How did you know you wanted to be your own boss when you were working?
Well, I always knew that I wanted to be my own boss, but I guess I'll be absolutely honest and say that, when you're in a nice job with a nice pension and a company car and all the perks that come with that, then to then leave that and set up on your own is either brave or, completely stupid. And I guess if I hadn't lost my job, I probably wouldn't have taken that step. But I always knew I wanted to, because I'd talked about it and I'd met with people previously who'd set up on their own and discussed it. But it was forced upon me, and then I took 2 long-term contracts and realised actually I couldn't work as I wanted to within those industries. And I thought, right, well, in 2017, I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to do it. And, if I fall flat on my face and I end up bankrupting myself in the process, at least I've given it a go. And I was really, really lucky, because I got a few clients quite early on. But then one of my relatives, they engaged an HR lady, and she was retiring. And I met with her, and she said, look, whilst none of my clients are on retainer, they're all pay as you go. If you'd like their names, I'll pass your details on to them. And I went round to meet with them. I made kind of appointments to see them all, and I'd say about 80% signed me up on retainer. So I was, I had, at that point I could go, right, okay, I need to recruit, I need an office, I need to start looking at the infrastructure of the business. So that was probably the greatest gift I could have been given, really.
That's amazing, really.
It was, yeah.
Why do you think your clients go to you? Because obviously you have so many amazing clients. Why do you think they go to you instead of other?
I don't know.
What makes
I guess
you
just
different?
being. Well, one, I think I've been there and I've got the T-shirt. I've been HR director for many years. There isn't, and I always say there isn't anything in HR I haven't seen. Yeah. Working in the steel industry, you come with all walks of life, and the good and the bad. So I guess having that experience under my belt probably makes people think, well, actually, you know what, I'm in a safe pair of hands here. But I don't want to just be safe. I actually want to help them be more creative. We have a fantastic client called Valley Education Trust, and I've actually joined their board of directors now. And so we meet monthly, and I'm helping them look at more creative ways to develop their education trust in terms of, the way that they manage people. And it's been a really enlightening experience, because they've not had an external sitting alongside them, challenging them on a number of things. So yeah, I think it's just, people get to know, like, and trust you, don't they? I guess that's a phrase. You get to know somebody, you think they might be all right, and then eventually you build up a good relationship and you understand their business or their skills, and they start to recommend you to others, and hopefully long may that continue.
Have you got any experiences which are a bit out there when it comes to HR?
Yeah, very, yeah. I could write a book.
Can you tell us one without name dropping?
Yeah, I mean, it was, well, yeah. I don't know whether I'm allowed to say this on camera, but there was a gentleman at work pleasuring himself at his desk.
Shut up.
Yeah, that was quite a, yeah.
No.
During work hours, yeah.
What?
Oh, so yeah, that was like, I know you're quite broad-minded, Joe. When we met, you said you could tackle anything. I was like, yeah, suspend him immediately, and this is a gross misconduct offence if ever I have come across one. So yes, he can go quite quickly.
Has he?
Yeah.
What about businesses wise? Have you ever faced anything in business that you find hard that you could prevent other people doing or help along the way?
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of things, because you know what, I was so keen to establish myself right at the beginning, and I didn't have any income coming in. You all know, as a business owner, you kind of probably the first 6 months, you kind of like sharp and take a breath, because thinking, how the hell am I going to survive? And I guess initially I probably went in too cheap with some clients because I was so desperate to bring in the work, which is really, really hard because then when you later try and unpick some of that, it becomes really hard because they're like, well, you know, you're providing the same service, why are you know X amount per month? So yeah, that's been, and I look back now and I think I shouldn't have undervalued myself.
Yeah.
But I did, and I wish I hadn't. I took on some big clients and I didn't get paid for 5.5 months.
Oh.
And it nearly went under. So, you know, whilst I did have some pretty strong terms of conditions of service and terms of conditions in place, they still didn't pay. So I wish, yeah, you know, those kind of experiences you live and learn from.
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, I even went to one client recently and she said, you're not charging enough. And I was like, thank you.
Shout out to that client.
Yeah.
What a good client.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can we name the client?
Greenology.
Right,
yeah.
great.
Laura's
yeah.
a really good friend of mine, yeah. She's
Laura.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
That's the type of clients you want.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. She's hers.
What occupation would you have been if you weren't doing HR?
Oh, God. My aunt actually said I'd have been a really good MP.
Girl.
And she was like, I need you, I'll run your campaign for you. I was like,
I mean,
But
why
no, I was
don't
like,
you?
way too many skeletons in the closet for that.
Like, you mind?
Yeah, we saw her drunk and stumbling out of the...
Joe Davies,
Yeah.
Prime Minister.
Out with the Indian on Saturday night.
Love
Yeah,
it.
so yeah, probably. I'd like to have been a singer, actually.
Would you?
Yeah,
Are you
but
a good
I can't
singer?
sing. No,
Wow.
I'm shit.
Right.
No,
Maybe
but I would
that's not
like
a good
to
way
have
to
done
go.
that. No.
What advice would you give someone starting up at a business?
Hold your breath for the first 6 months. It's going to be a rocky ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, just hold your breath.
Yeah.
If you get through the first 6 months, you'll be fine. But hold your breath because don't expect that business is going to fall in your lap. I mean, if you're making widgets and you're making things, then you know, potentially you will start building things. But if you're a service provider like you are and like I am, then you're going to just have to give it time because actually people are going to want to know a bit more about you, and it's a slower burn than if you're buying widgets. So it will get there, but hold your breath. And don't expect that it's all going to land in your lap. Doesn't matter what you are or who you are, things take time.
Yeah, I agree.
And
Patience.
And if you survive the first 2 years, you'll be all right.
Yeah.
Which I think is what they all say. But I would say the first 6 months is kind of like when I was used to paying my mortgage and having a nice income and things, and all of a sudden that's been cut. I had to be like,
Yeah. Maybe not. Yeah. But you sail through.
I wouldn't recommend it for the faint-hearted, but if you've got through that, then yeah, and you'll be in a much happier place because it's your own business.
100%. Yeah. About some influential people in your life.
Ooh, well, I like to read a lot, so I do tend to read a lot of kind of business publications. I do tend to, you know, try and learn from other people and listen to podcasts. And I do try and, you know, but I guess I kind of aspire to people who've kind of excelled, you know, particularly in sport. I kind of like to know more about them, you know. I feel people who are quite kind of very driven in terms of business and in terms of, you know, the wider kind of world in terms of politics and things. I tend to kind of get inspired by that, really. I thoroughly enjoyed reading Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. She's a big kind of heroine of mine. So people that have potentially been very driven but also faced adversity as well that you become inspired from.
I feel like you should have been a politician now. I feel like that's what you were made for.
Yeah. I don't have faith in an awful lot of politicians
Yeah.
recently, but yeah, there's some, like the Obamas, that, you know, I just put up on a huge pedestal.
Love it.
Because of what they are and who they are and their values as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
About morning routine, what does it look like?
Oh, usually I try and get as many snoozes as I can. But the sad fact of the matter is that 6:45 I'm up in the shower. Then I call my son, get him, make sure he's actually getting himself out of bed and not leaving it till the 11th hour. Get out, make sure the dog's out, prod my son to make sure he's had his breakfast, and then set off to the office. So he needs to be at school for about 8:20, so usually we leave just before 8.
So you're not part of the 5 a.m. club?
No, but I should be.
No, you shouldn't.
Although I've started open water swimming.
Have you?
Going in the teas, yeah.
Are you?
So I'm doing that every week at the minute.
My God.
So today one of my team and I were thinking if the weather stays like this week, we might bring our wetsuits down and actually go off the pontoon in the middle of Yarm.
Nice.
We usually go off at Preston Park.
Do you?
Yeah, there's a pontoon there, every Saturday.
Did not know that.
But I do not subscribe to 5 a.m. exercise class yet.
No.
I like a bit of yoga, I like a bit of that, but no.
No 5 a.m.ers?
No. I like my sleep too much.
I know. I'd resent everyone around me if I got up at 5.
I have to be honest, I think once you've had a baby, sleep just becomes a really precious commodity. Yeah. And I feel like I'm still, even though he's 13, making up for the hours that I lost when he was first born for the first year.
I 100% agree with you.
So I really get aggrieved if anybody wakes me up early on a weekend, like mortally aggrieved.
Yeah. Books?
Yes.
Books do you recommend? 3 books?
3 books. So the first book I couldn't put down for a long time was You're the Boleyn Girl by Philippa Gregory. Big shout out to Philippa, who lives in Stokesley. I didn't realise that until somebody told me that, so there you go.
Shout out to Philippa.
And I was actually on the way to the British Grand Prix, and my husband was nuzzling me out the car, and I just couldn't put the book down. I was like, I've just got to finish this. And actually, when a book does that to you, and I then became inspired to read loads of her books, and then I became overly obsessed with Henry VIII and all of that. So actually, that was a really fantastic book that I really, really enjoyed reading. I also, after my dad passed away in 2020, I spent some of my time afterwards sitting in the garden reading Becoming by Michelle Obama, which I think we've already talked about, and again, loved that from cover to cover. And then I suppose I should give a shout out to the latest book that I have got a copy of from my client. So Sarah Davies' latest book, We All Can Make It. So yes, I'd like to give her a shout out because I've read that and that's absolutely fantastic.
I'll have to give all 3 a read. Shout out to Sarah.
Shout out, yeah.
Yeah, love it. What about movies? 3 movies. But it doesn't have to be movies actually, it can be like what you're watching on Netflix.
I've just finished watching the last series of Selling Sunset, which I absolutely bloody loved. Proper, switch it on, forget everything, kind of. It's just, it's got fantastic outfits, bitchy women, and houses like ridiculous. I watched Anatomy of a Scandal, which was really good. Just watched Good Girls before that, that was amazing. And I guess probably my favourite film, if I was just going to talk about films, would probably be something like Shawshank.
Oh, God, yeah.
Just because I just wasn't prepared for the end.
Yeah.
At all.
Yeah.
And then when the end came, I was just like, oh my God, this film is just absolutely incredible.
It was amazing.
So it's that's probably one of my standout films.
Have you got a question that you wish I'd asked you?
I wish I could have asked you a question.
Oh my God.
And flipped the tables.
What? Nobody's ever said this.
Okay.
Ask me a question.
Yeah, ask you a question. What was your 3 life lessons about setting up the business?
Oh, shit. Right. Positive people. Find not so have the family unit and everything like that, but in the business, make sure you've got the positive people around you who are happy about every success that you make within the business.
More wine.
Wine. I mean, branding's. I feel like we were good with the branding. I think that's really important as a brand to get your brand. Network support. Yeah, finding your network of businesses who support you and want you to do well, and you support them. Yeah. And won't screw you over, are helpful, and you'll help them as well. Yeah. Good. I mean, I'd shout out Ben there anyway. Thanks for that.
Hey.
That's a good one. Nobody's ever said that. Where can people find you online?
So you can find us on Insta, you can find us on Facebook. We do a bit on Twitter as well, but our website is www.hralchemy.co.uk.
And it's getting revamped, so don't go on yet.
Yeah, it's the old website at the minute, but hopefully after tomorrow it'll be somewhere new.
Oh, so you can go on because by the time this airs, it'll be fine.
Hopefully.
Yay! Well, thank you for being
Or
a
they can
guest.
find me in Yarm once I get my sign up.
Just
I'm
go to
above,
Yarm then.
Just above Market Cross.
Yeah. Oh. Yeah. Well, there you go then.
There you go.
Thank you.
Come for a brew or a glass of wine.
Wine. Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you for coming on.
You're very welcome.
Yay!